Kristi Noem is now walking the same path her dear leader just took. And no, this isn't about rhetoric or cruelty this time. It's about surrender. She's following the example set by Donald Trump just yesterday, when he effectively folded in Minnesota. Trump firing Greg Boino and then having that overly friendly call with Mayor Fry and Tim Walz was a clear admission that what's happening in Minnesota is politically devastating for him. That's exactly why he summoned Kristi Noem and her partner Corey Lewandowski to an emergency meeting last night. And now we're seeing the result. Noem backing down, bowing to Senate Republicans who are in full revolt because they know just how toxic this issue has become. One person who's actually read this moment correctly, and as much as I hate to admit it, is Ted Cruz, who's now openly clashing with Trump. What he had to say about Kristi Noem, Trump, and Stephen Miller explains why Noem is suddenly retreating and being forced to face accountability from Senate Republicans of all people.
The problem is, particularly for someone not paying attention, if you're being told this is a mom of three and there's no indication, she's not waving an ISIS flag or doesn't have a suicide vest around her.
Yeah.
Escalating the rhetoric doesn't help. And it actually loses credibility. And so I would encourage the administration to be more measured, to recognize the tragedy and to say we don't want anyone's lives to be lost. And the politicians who are pouring gasoline onto this fire, they need to stop.
Before getting into the wider implications of what Ted Cruz is doing here, I have to ask, credibility. Of who exactly? Who in this administration actually has any credibility? Caroline Leavitt? Stephen Miller? Kristi Noem? Donald Trump, a man who lied tens of thousands of times in his first term. Kristi Noem can barely speak clearly. And when she does, it's usually not the truth. These people have been caught lying again and again. That said, Ted Cruz is right about one thing. They are deliberately trying to escalate the rhetoric. I can't believe I'm saying it, but he sees the political moment clearly. Cruz is a deeply cynical operator, not someone driven by compassion, and he's taking advantage of Trump's weakness. Senate Republicans are doing the same, pushing Kristi Noem toward accountability, which we'll get into. But it's not just Republicans reacting. Some are walking away entirely. That's why it's important to listen to Chris Medell, who just ended his run for governor in Minnesota, and what he had to say in his statement.
When I look at my daughters, I want them, like every other parent, I want them to have a better life than I did. But I also want them to know that I'm leading by example. And when I want them to know that it doesn't matter what the color of your skin is, it doesn't matter where you came from. We need to treat everybody with a measure of humanity. And that's what it really means to be an American. And that's what we are. We are a nation of immigrants. And when we're treating United States citizens for their hiding in their homes right now in Minnesota, they're afraid to go outside. We have United States citizens, because of their color of their skin, are carrying papers, their passport with them, pictures of their passport, because they're afraid of being picked up by the federal government. That is antithetical to everything our country is about, literally everything. And I want my daughters to know that I stood up and said no. It's far important to me that I said no to this than I become the Republican gubernatorial candidate, and see my name in lights with respect to that. There are some things that are far more important than just running for office, and I needed them to know that.
They know just how unpopular they are right now and how much damage this moment has done to Donald Trump. That's why we're seeing them give up. Republicans are quitting, distancing themselves from the administration, carefully walking back their statements, and softly testing pushback because they don't know what else to do. Kristi Noem doesn't know what to do either. Normally, she would have full backing from Donald Trump, but that support isn't there anymore. This administration's approach has been to ignore Congress, undermine oversight, and openly resist accountability. But as more Republicans begin to revolt, Noem is coming under serious pressure, and she's willing to do whatever it takes to protect her position, even if that means surrendering to Congress in a way that's shocking and likely to create even bigger problems for her going forward. Ice Barbie caves to top Republican in desperate bid to save her job. Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem has finally agreed to appear before the Senate Judiciary Committee as pressure intensifies following the brutal death of ICU nurse Alex Preddy at the hands of a federal agent. Preddy, 37, was shot and killed in public by a masked federal agent in Minnesota on Saturday, while Renee Good was killed by an ICE agent on January 7th in the same area. The DHS agent claimed that they shot Prey in self-defense, which is a lie, with Noem adding that Preddy had a weapon on him and multiple dozens of rounds of ammunition, wishing to inflict harm on these officers coming brandishing a weapon like that, which is also a lie. Republicans, including Senate Chair Chuck Grassley, have been trying to get Noem to the front of the Judiciary Committee for months. While Noem's testimony is not directly related to the incidents in Minneapolis, it seems like the backlash to the brutal death of Freddie has expedited her appearance. It's also likely the events will take center stage. The 54-year-old has come under particular scrutiny after labeling Prey a domestic terrorist, as well as Good after their deaths at the hands of federal agents. The Senate Judiciary Committee has the power to investigate federal officials and law enforcement agencies, including the FBI, DOJ, and DHS. So Kristi Noem is finally being forced to face some level of accountability. At least 6 or 7 Republican senators are now calling for a full investigation into what happened on the ground in Minneapolis, not just in the case of Renee Good, but also in the killing of Alex Preddy. This comes as Noem has been actively trying to suppress evidence and avoid scrutiny, which makes this a major surrender for her. For weeks, she tried to obstruct Congress and dodge oversight, but now she's being dragged in to answer questions. And if she stumbles, which is very likely, this could mark the beginning of the end for her politically. Trump is already furious over how badly the press conferences have gone, and with protests clearly working, he's in a firing mood. Rachel Maddow laid this out clearly, explaining how this pressure from both the public and Republicans themselves is forcing Noem into a corner, and why this moment could spiral into an even bigger problem for the Trump administration.
Democrats saying they are not going to do it even if they have done it before. In the House, the number of members of Congress who are signing up to an effort there to impeach Kristi Noem, the Homeland Security Secretary, that races up to well over, look at that, 140 co-sponsors. I was going to say over 100 now. It's now at 140 co-sponsors of the resolution to impeach Kristi Noem as Homeland Security Secretary. And last week, there were a handful of House Democrats who did vote to fund the Department of Homeland Security. Those handful of House Democrats who voted to fund the Department of Homeland Security last week have this week started apologizing for it. Democrat Tom Suozzi in New York, quote, "I failed to view the Homeland Security funding vote as a referendum on the illegal and immoral conduct of ICE in Minneapolis. I hear the anger from many of my constituents, and I take responsibility for that. I have long been critical of ICE's unlawful behavior, and I must do a better job demonstrating that." Some Democrats changing their previous position to say now they will not vote to fund ICE, and some Democrats who already voted to fund ICE saying, "Oh, wow, that was wrong. I'm so sorry. I didn't get it. I'll do better." This is called political change. And even in the the sinkhole of sniveling cowardice that has been America's business so-called leaders. Even there, they're starting to ever so tentatively squeak that maybe, possibly, if nobody minds, they might want to express that they're mildly uncomfortable with what Trump and the Trump administration are doing. Chief executives of Target, Best Buy, General Mills, Cargill, Land O'Lakes, Hormel, U.S. Bank Corp., the Mayo Clinic, 3M, and dozens of other large Minnesota employers issued a public letter Sunday calling for, quote, an immediate de-escalation in their state. And yes, that is too little. And yes, that is too late, but it is way more than they were willing to do before. So take it, bank it, and build on it. We even saw some of the old graybeards of U.S. politics rouse from their retirement pastimes and diversions to say something. President Barack Obama and President Bill Clinton each issuing pretty stirring statements condemning Trump's attack on Minneapolis and praising the strong, peaceful protests of the people there in response. And, you know, we are conditioned to be bored and underwhelmed by anything done in Congress. And honestly, by Congress, by candidates, by brand name politicians.
This is working. Our pushback is making an impact, and Donald Trump is clearly losing control. The pressure is landing, and we have to keep it going. That's exactly what we'll continue to do on this show. If you want to support that, hit the subscribe button, leave a like on the video, and if you made it to the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I will see you soon.